Today I want to do a video of the KO Pose Plus Gaogaigar versus my custom Takara DX Gaogaigar. So I just want to see how these two compare. So we'll start with the Gaulian mode. So you can see the Pose Plus is very stylized. It's got a lot of extra details. The head looks pretty fantastic compared to the Takara, which is vacuum metal. So pretty good, but obviously the Pose Plus just has a lot more sharper detail, and the vacuum metal, it's kind of mushy looking, loses some points for sure. But I'd say this overall pose of this figure, I think of the Pose Plus figure is kind of ugly, especially this back section, and I really don't like how high this thing is. I might you're gonna keep in mind throughout the whole video I probably mistransform some things, or some things are just not lined up correctly. He's got like an ab crunch, but that doesn't really help. It just doesn't really work, and that's not probably this factory's fault. It's just like the design was always kind of weird looking. Whereas on mine I kind of made some concessions to it, so I raised the neck to give it kind of more of a Sphinx pose, and he's got his side to side articulation, and then he's got like just this extra little back kibble back here, so he's got kind of the same issue of this just being back here. I guess I could just fold this up a little bit, make it maybe a little bit neater, or I could have these displayed here, and that kind of helps too, but I think he looks a little bit more complete like this maybe helps with his proportions. I don't know. I kind of like having these folded up. So, I don't know. I think proportion wise, the Takara is actually not that bad. I think they both look pretty similar. This guy looks a little bit more dynamic. He can pull off some more interesting pose. This guy can do like a wide pose too. But like the legs on this guy are a little bit too short, whereas on this one, they look pretty powerful. So, yeah, I think overall, of course, the Pose Plus just looks better, but the Takara just feels better. It's got a lot less pieces that are likely to just pop off. This guy, I don't know, especially when I transform this guy, things are just flying off. Like these panels will fly off. These little bits of plastic here tend to come off. Yeah, if you just like pull on certain parts, they just pop off. So overall, this guy's kind of like a model kit in quality, whereas the DX is definitely just a chunky toy. So I do prefer the DX for that. But so for the first round, I'd say this guy definitely looks better. All right, here they are in their core robot modes. I actually don't know what these are called. I never watched the show. I just always liked the design. But you can see that the Pose Plus, again, is just beautiful. The proportions are, I mean, they're really perfect. Whereas the Takara one, he's looking a little tall and awkward, and his chest definitely sticks out too much. And the color separation on the Pose Plus is just so beautiful. You can make out, like if we look at the heads, we got like a really great head sculpt. And then we got this head sculpt, which they don't even compare. They don't even look very similar, to be honest. They're so different. But yeah, it's just no competition. This one just looks very beautiful, and he's actually not too hard to transform. I did all this without instructions, so I'm sure I did some things wrong, but it's not too bad. And as far as the posing goes, like his A stance for the Takara is very awkward looking. And then I did add knee joints to this guy, so it's kind of weird. But those are in there, so that's not stock, which I think helps him a little tiny bit, but he still looks pretty awkward. Whereas this guy just has great hips. He looks great no matter what you do. And when I say great hips, I actually mean like this hip is not very good. It's very loose. And this one is a little tight for kicking forward and backwards. But just the style, of course, this guy cleans up beautifully. I mean, what's not to like? He looks terrific. And then the Takara, of course, is just like a relic of its time. He looks maybe more like the cartoon model. He's very simple, whereas this guy is just very stylized. So it's really comparing kind of apples to oranges. But of course, you're going to get much better poses with this guy. He's got die cast metal in the knees, which is part of his hip issue. And then I think, nope, not in the hips. And then he does have die cast here. So he's got these double jointed elbows as well. So, oh, and that's one thing I don't like about this figure is he's got like these rubber, I would call these actual soft plastic. They're not rubber, but you have to like peg the hands on. And one of the hands just does not like to fit, but that's probably because this guy's a KO. You're going to get some weirdness. And then before I transform this guy does have some paint wear. He's got a lot of paint rubbing, because when I got this guy from AliExpress, they just put everything in one box and everything just mashed together. But he was about $150, so you kind of get what you pay for. Okay, next we have Drill Gao, I want to say. The Takara one, of course, is pretty boxy, and this is a custom again, so I gave him different drill bits, and he does have articulated toes now, so he's a little bit uglier than the stock legs. And then this one is kind of just beautiful. He's got a lot of plastic wear just from parts rubbing together, but he still looks great. Awesome looking treads. Everything just nice and cohesive. And of course we got these cool metallic green bits just to give them a little bit of splash of extra color. So that's how those two compare. All right, and here we have Stealth Gao, I'm pretty sure. So the Takara again, nice and simple. Unfortunately he does have stickers, which I really don't like, but he's pretty good. His head's just gonna flop around because that ball joint's very weak, but everything's all consistent. I added this little bit in the back just to sell the point. And then of course the Pose Plus is again very beautiful, a matte plastic, which I think makes more sense than gloss. And then everything's pretty neatly tucked in the bottom. It kind of looks the same though. All right, and this one is Liner Gao. I'm pretty confident on that. And then this is the Takara one, but not really. The Gaogaigar I bought actually did not have Liner Gao, so I had to make one out of claw rail parts. So this guy is like Shinkalion scale, which is pretty cool. And then of course you got this one, which has this beautiful translucent blue parts. It just looks very sharp, has a lot of mechanical detail just hiding everywhere. And then these wheels are kind of integrated, so it's pretty cool. And it's also like a matte plastic. But I do like that the claw rail is used for this. And then I had to make this really ugly combination joint, because he does have the parts for him, he does have to cheat. But then this is how he looks without that joint, which I think is pretty good actually. It's not a bad looking train, not as good as the Pose Plus of course, but what can you do? And we can compare these dividing drivers, I'm pretty sure. So the Pose Plus, of course, just loaded with detail, even has some articulation here, and some here. This slides, I don't know why, I don't know what any of this is. But this one does feel very cheap, it just feels like a model kit. It's very lightweight. And then of course the Takara feels like actual plastic. It's very nice. I did put some gold plastic in the tip here. And just has very simple construction, nothing fancy going on there. And then the Pose Plus comes with a lot of nice little things like a cover for the Stealth Gao, a nice stand that's made of aluminum, I believe. It's definitely a metal, so that's pretty great. And then he's got like this force field, this plastic. He's got some spare hands, and then he's got like his actual non-transformable, but his posing hands, which are nice and gigantic compared to like his transformable hands. You can see those are smaller to fit in the turbines, but then like his posing hands look a lot more bigger and intimidating. I think this is part of the stand, I'm pretty sure, for robot mode. I don't actually know what this is. And then he comes with a whole other bag of goodies. So he comes with this force field hand, and then another one of these things, I don't know what it is. He's got his combined hands, all these little laser bits, like bolts. Yep, bolts. And then whatever this thing is, he's got this cool thing. He's got alternate hands for his core figure. So yeah, oh yeah, and he's got a little yelling face for his core figure. So you get all kinds of extra little goodies and whatever this thing is. I don't know, this thing. Oh yeah, and this really pretty emerald knife, which is for his core robot. So that fits into his weapon wielding hands. You could even two-hand it, which is pretty impressive. And now we're at the main event, and you can see I think both of them look pretty in their own ways. Of course, this guy looks more like the animation model, and this guy just has a lot of extra mechanical details. He looks like a masterpiece figure. Of course, I think the Pose Plus, the KO Pose Plus, has better proportions. He just looks better all around. But then this guy is just, the Takara is just so much more fun to transform. This guy is a real pain to transform because a lot of pieces just tend to pop off of him, probably because he's a knockoff. Some tolerances are just off. Some things are too tight. Some things are too loose. This one is just more fun to pose. And he's just so much more simplified. And of course, he is a custom figure, so he does have some articulation the original didn't have, like bending elbows, bending knees. And he does have like these hip skirts that move out. You can see all that in the custom video I did. But this guy can definitely strike very dynamic poses. And this guy is very heavy, which I never liked. I understand the die cast gives them a more premium feel, but it also makes the articulation much worse. Like this leg is just hopelessly floppy because it's so heavy because he's got extra metal in the toes. This leg does okay actually, but so this guy actually suffers a little bit just due to his heft. But yeah, let's get both of these guys on the turntable. Okay, we'll give the Takara a spin first, and I think everything just works so well with this guy. He's just black and intimidating. I just always love this design. And I think the proportions actually fit together really well now that I've given him knees and bulked up his biceps and his shoulders. I think he actually looks a lot better now. And then we'll look at the Pose Plus. Just all these little green highlights just come through really beautifully. This metallic green, and just really tie him together really nicely, even though he's made of so many different colors. And you can just see all the beautiful mechanical bits on this guy, and he just looks good. He looks great from every angle, even the side. You can still make out his different proportions. He's just really great. And let's take a look at one last thing. Let's compare their weights. So the Pose Plus, KO Pose Plus, is 2 pounds and 3 ounces, or 99 grams about. So 2 pounds, 3 ounces versus 2 pounds even, or 91 grams. So even though the Takara is bigger and a little bulkier, the Pose Plus just comes out significantly heavier. And you can feel that. This guy is just very dense. Alright, so basically this KO Pose Plus I think is worth the money. He does have some things that feel a little bit cheap, but I have no idea how that compares with the original figure. But this figure just ultimately isn't for me. I always try out like these masterpiece figures, and I just never like them. They're just too they have too much going on. They're too fiddly in some ways, and it's just more fun for me to have a toy that is just a toy and is chunky and durable and simple. That's why I like these Korean robots so much. But honestly, if you are a masterpiece collector or you just want something that looks good on the shelf, this thing, you can't beat the price. It's so incredible. Like it looks like an art piece. If that's what you go for, then definitely this is the figure you get. And if you're into toys that are just fun to play with, then this is probably not the right toy for you either. That's just not what this guy's really made for. He's made for posing, and he's made for looking incredible. But I think they designed him pretty well, and he's also got a little bit of toyetic play to him too, a little bit. He's just not for me. So you can look for this guy in my sales link, and I will see you in the next one.